Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. So this time I'll be doing a review of the entirety of season 21. So without further delay, let's get started.
Springtime for Diesel.
I don't get why Diesel in the later seasons is being given flack for not being his devious self. He's a far more complex character than fans are given credit for. If anyone should be the threatening villain, it's Diesel 10, and he hasn't shown up since season 17.
Yeah, Twinkle Toes!
Anyway, I really love this episode, especially the character development. Diesel's deviousness being a habit he can't shake off, Daisy getting her passengers to their destination despite being crippled, and we even got Dan standing up for himself when Dart tries correcting him.
What she means is...
I know what she means.
There were a couple of issues, even if they are minor. 1. How did Dan not know what Daisy was given that she went to the Diesel works in the railcar and the coaches? 2. Why were they not supplied with springs? But in the end, they're just minor plot holes that can be given a simple tweaking. The ending really does it for me. Seeing Diesel go through emotional turmoil was pretty fun to watch, and seeing him pour his heart out to Daisy that night was really genuine and heartwarming. Even more so when she tells him off for bumping her earlier. This is what I call a great start to the series.
A most singular engine.
Have I mentioned how great a character Daisy has been since Ryan and Daisy? It really is true, and this is another fantastic episode. Though the continuity between this and Springtime for Diesel is a bit confusing given the relationship between him and Daisy, but then again maybe character development isn't instantaneous. The way the plot builds up was very nicely handled. Diesel being frustrated with Daisy's overbearing personality and him seeing Harvey to put Daisy in her place all felt believable. Heck, Ryan's role was great as well since he's naive. Once again, the second half was great. Daisy and Harvey finally confronting each other only to encounter a cute little bunny at the crossing. The rivalry gets nipped in the bud when they help each other out, and Diesel gets a good dose of karma by rolling into the sea. Though the toilet humor felt rather shoehorned in.
My bottom's wet!
Still another lovely episode. Oh, and is that the first time in years Chuck and Diesel have been in the same shot? If only we could have had an episode based around their current personas.
Dowager Hat's busy day.
Oh my god. I don't think I have laughed this much at a Thomas and Friends episode. But seriously, it feels like the green controller done properly. As in they're not using an engine to run the railway. Dowager Hat was the perfect choice for the temporary controller. And her entrance into the story is the right mix of badass and hilarious. Also, did anyone feel sorry for poor Percy? First, he's had a tissue land on his nose, and then he can't even get up Gordon's Hill pulling the express. The episode itself is a satire on the Miller era, how Sharon Miller would run a railway. But unlike the joke in the way she does it, this doesn't feel out of place at all.
Going to Misty Island? No!
Even if the era should stay a thing of the past. Unfortunately, for almost everyone, Emily is around to speak sense into Dowager Hat. Episodes like this are why Emily is my favorite character. She's the ideal sister figure for the main cast. And that ending with Philip. You feel sorry for him, but you can't help but have a bit of a laugh in the predicament he's in.
Stuck in gear.
This one, however, kind of feels like a step backward. Does that make the episode bad? Not necessarily. I mean, I am glad Harvey gets a lead role to himself, though his character feels rather inconsistent with what we had seen in a most singular engine when he was confident in his own abilities. But the episode's biggest problem within itself is Harvey's crew not being involved. Couldn't they have tried to help their engine in removing the branches from his gears before it got worse? It's pretty jarring as season 20 had 3 episodes where the engines interacted with their crews. That being said, I really like the theme they showed here. I really like the ending, how the lesson stuck with Harvey. Was excited at moving his arm again that he lost himself and felt sheepish, but still asked for help anyway. The weakest of the first week, but still a good watch nonetheless.
Runaway engine.
Now there's an episode I was looking forward to when it first came out, and did it deliver? Yes it did, especially given that it's a Helen Farrell episode. The dynamic between Steven, Millie and Glenn is one of the best of the entire show, and the middle act shows how genuine their friendship is, especially when Steven feels guilty for unintentionally hurting Millie. Then again, she did leave waste in front of the shed out of pettiness. But then that's what Steven and Glenn got for not listening to instructions. And I can't forget the grumpy passenger's role. He's always entertaining whenever he appears, ever since his debut back in season 18's Duncan and the Grumpy Passenger. Even more so how Sir Robert calmly dealt with his temper. And I know some will complain about Steven being childish for his age, but here's the thing. If he was a generic elderly character, he wouldn't be fun to watch. Steven's a flawed character, and episodes like this and Over the Hill show why it's a good thing. He's got drawbacks just like everyone else, but he knows how to roll with them. On the whole, it's a brilliant end to the first week.
PA problems.
And here we go, the 500th episode of the entire series. It's a very rare occasion that a kids show could last this long. But here we are with a milestone in this history. How does it hold up? Quite well actually. It's nice to see Edward co-starring in this one, especially as Croc's scrapyard is nearest branch line, and how he was feathered to demonstrate that old doesn't mean useless. But the theme is very much a strength and a weakness. Why? Well, look at what happens when the TX1000 fails. Fair enough, it breaks down, but they don't explain what was wrong with it or what caused the speakers to have awful feedback. And that implies that all new technology is flawed, which is rather narrow-minded. Laptops are sometimes better than desktops, MP3 players provide you with more variety than a cassette player, and so on and so forth. The point is, if you are saying that we shouldn't upgrade to newer technology, then by that logic, Thomas wouldn't be in CGI, and they would still rely on those worn-out models. In the Fogman, there was a reason the Foghorn was unsuitable as a replacement for Cyril. Anyways, like I said, Edward had a really good role here, as did Reg. So nice they didn't forget about him completely. His nature is so contagious, but I can't help but enjoy it. And yeah, I feel bad for the workmen having to put up with his singing, especially the one at the end. A great episode, with a solid theme, with a few tweaks, it would be perfect.
Hasty Hannah.
Fun fact, this episode was actually intended to be in season 20, but it was held back and is now in season 21. But was the wait worth it? And is Hannah as interesting as a character she's made out to be? Okay, so this is an episode where Toby's portrayed as being worrisome, but unlike Three Steam Engine's gruff, it actually has a catalyst behind it. Hannah is rather overbearing and Toby's not used to going at high speeds. Might have worked better if he was a bit more assertive against Hannah's desires, but we got what we got. Hannah herself was a really fun character, though it would be a shame if she never returned to the series. I think she would be as great as a part of the Farquhar branch as is Annie and Clarabelle. Heck, we could get a story with the three of them. Seeing her almost getting killed was really dramatic and shows that you can have dark moments too in the modern show. I would have preferred a scolding from the Pack Controller, but nearly getting killed would hammer the point home further. Though I have to wonder, why wasn't James used more in the story? And how would Toby get to Knapford within 20 minutes? Sure, he said it out of sarcasm, but it would be impossible to get there from Crowman's Gate, even for someone like Gordon within that time frame. For Toby, it would probably be 20 hours instead. and how on earth can it get from Dryer to Gordon's Hill? Despite the issues, I think this episode was really good. Not one of season 21's strongest, but the way it played out worked fine for me. Oh, and we also get a preview of Rosie's new livery as well. Implications of romance between Toby and Henrietta? Not sure where the writers are going with this though.
Cranky at the end of the line.
There's not a whole lot I can say about this one. I mean, it became obvious that Cranky would not be replaced by Carly. It was obvious from Stuck in Gear that there would be a new Crane. Heck, Thomas and Edward travel to the mainland completely goes against the former's desires in Journey Beyond Sodor. And that's supposed to take place after season 21. Yeah, this comedy, but it didn't really make me laugh as it felt like a distraction. And then there's a huge plot hole if we consider Kevin's currently friend. Why didn't the Fat Controller plan on getting a new Crane after Kevin returned to the steamwork? Was it not considered at the time? This episode as a whole feels like filler. You could skip right to the next episode and miss nothing.
New crane on the dock.
Is this one better than the previous? Well, no, it wasn't. Sure, the theme is good, but it's nothing we haven't seen in the likes of Ryan and Daisy and No Help at All. Sure, they added the theme of communication, but it's hammered in at the end. Sure, there's some nice humor, but again, it feels like a distraction. I like what they went for with Cranky and Carly's dynamic. He's the older brother who's jealous of his new baby sister, getting all the attention, and they get into a petty squabble about it. And I guess that makes Salty the uncle figure telling them a story about a two-headed sea serpent. It's funny, sure, but it doesn't really add much to the story. Now, let's get on to the big man, Big Mickey. This is pandering to the older fan at its absolute highest. Only they know about Tux and the younger fans don't. They won't know about it unless they look online. Big Mickey gaining a face feels like a half-baked attempt at acknowledging his presence. Perhaps the biggest plot hole in this season alone. Why did no one bother with him until now of all time? At least when Henrietta gained a face there was a reason for it. What was the point of giving Big Mickey a face other than fan service? So yeah, I didn't like this one. It's my least favorite of the season up to this point. It also feels like a sign of stagnation in the writing department and the need to come up with new ideas. Otherwise the show will have reached the end of the line. Get it? And okay, I'll stop.
Unscheduled stops.
I'm not the type of person who gives a high rating to someone who returns. As I've said countless times, I look for good story and theme to go along with it. That being said, it was a nice surprise to have Bulgy return for the first time since, I think, season 12? Not sure about that one. I don't think we would have had a surprise like that since Harvey's return in Thomas's Shortcut. That brings me into the episode's themes, which are a bit confusing. Think about it, Thomas does a good deed for Bertie's passengers at the cost of being late. The Fat Controller isn't too happy about that, and so he hires Bulgy to look after Bertie's passengers. Thomas more or less disobeys the Fat Controller's orders and gets off scot-free. I'm not saying the episode is bad because of the flawed theme, but I think Helen Farrell could have been a little more explicit as to where she was going with this one. I do enjoy the episode for what it is, especially the Fat Controller part, and how they balanced his serious part and his clown part together.